In the marriage in Montecito, the mainstream media has been very slow to catch up, but Heat magazine...
Family and friends just can't stop talking about.
It was a picture-perfect day, you know, Windsor Castle.
Feel and react when you realize you get to come to the wedding.
I'm still reacting.
And they're now two people who sources describe as wildly unhappy with goals that have quietly diverged in ways that...
I was like, oh, you're going to London, or you're going for the royal wedding? Are you here for the royal wedding? Are you here for the royal wedding?
These two idiots' anniversary, and they weren't going to cry about people not, I don't know. This says the family...
Harry would rather be anywhere else than trapped in this loveless union. Harry wants out.
In the picturesque enclave of Montecito, where luxury and secrecy often intertwine, the story of this marriage has remained just beneath the surface, with mainstream media only now beginning to unravel the layers. But for Harry and Meghan, the silence within those walls isn't peaceful, it's suffocating. Harry finds himself trapped in what feels more like a hollow arrangement than a loving partnership. The vow to choose each other every day has eroded into a deafening quiet, not the comfortable kind shared between two people, but a chilling stillness that creeps through every room like an unwelcome guest. It seeps into the very fabric of their shared life, settling over the furniture, lingering in the corners, until the silence becomes so heavy it drowns out all else. This isn't just a casual quiet, it's a persistent reminder of distance and disconnection. What makes this situation even more heart-wrenching is a poignant detail. While Meghan was in Geneva, her mother Doria was staying in their Montecito home. This means Meghan wasn't just physically separated from Harry, she was separated from her own children as well.
We have a new look now at Harry and Meghan's wedding. As they celebrate their first anniversary, we have some brand new pictures from the big day.
This is going to be so... I almost said the F word. This is going to be so fake. I have it.
Was Meghan Markle's worst mistake actually marrying Prince Harry? The couple is celebrating their 6-year wedding anniversary.
You know, 3 days before our wedding, we got married.
When Meghan Markle and Prince Harry tied the knot, it went...
As Meghan Markle walked down the aisle on her wedding day, she had a secret that Prince Harry knew nothing about.
That's not what happened. A wedding certificate has proved the couple did not formally marry in their backyard ceremony.
Reduced to cheaply glowing screens on a hotel mattress thousands of miles away, she faced the painful reality of only being able to connect with her kids through FaceTime. Meanwhile, Harry remained inside the same house, replaying every argument, every bitter word, over and over in his mind. Imagine the emotional weight of that moment. One half of the family fragmented, watching the others through digital windows. It's an image far more powerful and revealing than any curated anniversary post ever could be. Then came Radar Online, stepping forward to confirm Heat magazine's coverage, and they didn't stop there. They unveiled a sharp escalation in tension that had been simmering below the surface, bubbling over in recent weeks. This wasn't just a marriage feeling strained or experiencing rough patches. The words they chose were unequivocal.
Meghan Markle stepped out in Geneva for an important conversation, but ended up getting humiliated in the process. She didn't want Prince Harry there. This was her moment. And I believe that, wholeheartedly believe that. This isn't about...
The marriage is imploding. That's not a casual description. It's the sound of a foundation cracking under unbearable pressure, an urgent signal that something deeply significant is breaking down. To truly grasp the magnitude of this, we have to look deeper, to the events that set this domino effect into motion. Because what Harry was quietly plotting in the weeks before that bitter confrontation pulls back the curtain on the state of his heart and mind. In the days leading to their 8th wedding anniversary, a milestone meant to celebrate enduring love, Harry found himself caught in a swirl of deep emotions, hinting at a man wrestling with his choices and the future of their life together. The story of this tension, of a relationship teetering on the edge, starts long before the fight itself, an understanding that build-up is key to seeing the full picture. He had thrown every ounce of energy into crafting something truly special for the family, a summer in Europe that wasn't just another vacation, but a deeply meaningful mission. This wasn't about sightseeing or relaxation. It was a heartfelt, intentional effort to rebuild a bridge to the life he left behind, and most importantly,
but to come back over before the end of the summer. He wants to connect back, particularly with his father. Harry is now
won't go, therefore there's no need for Meghan to go, to try to make it seem less like they were singling out Meghan.
To provide his children with a sense of calm, stability, and belonging. A precious chance at peace that Harry quietly feared might slip away forever if they didn't act soon. The vision was clear. Set up a home base in Portugal for the summer, a place where they could feel grounded, and then carve out some precious moments at Balmoral, where his father, King Charles, could finally spend quality time with Archie and Lilibet. That's where the weight of the story truly hits: a grandfather running against the clock, 2 grandchildren who barely recognize his voice, and Harry desperately trying to mend what feels like a rapidly closing window between these 2 worlds. This wasn't a simple holiday plan. It was a mission filled with urgency, a chance to repair bonds before they fracture forever. But that fragile hope shattered. Word got to Meghan that William and Kate had taken a firm stance. The Sussex family was not welcome at Balmoral.
Harry bringing in the cake and singing "Happy Anniversary" to Mama. And then Meghan kind of rushes it at the end and goes.
Harry's treatment of and depiction of Catherine in the book Spare. So William's
The royal couple had reportedly told Harry in no uncertain terms they weren't willing to have their private family sanctuary disturbed. The backlash boiled down to just 2 chilling words they allegedly used to describe what Harry and Meghan would bring Hollywood drama. 2 words that packed a punch, dismissing everything they stood for as trivial and chaotic. When Meghan caught wind of those words, the situation erupted. What had been a tense disagreement quickly spiraled into a full-scale confrontation. Those words weren't just harsh, they were a sharp and deeply personal label designed to erase the significance of everything Meghan has worked for and everything she represents. And Meghan, known for her strength and unwillingness to let anyone diminish her or her family.
No one on her team. It was an entire, basically she just got, paid, and the whole idea was
That's not because they all hated her and quit, is it?
But there is a lot of talk that they could be a little bit short of cash. Do you think this is true?
Did not take that lightly. So, what began as a carefully planned summer, filled with hope and intent to heal, was unraveling fast, and the Balmoral part, the heart of the plan, was slipping right through their fingers. The most heart-wrenching and pivotal moment in this entire saga was, without a doubt, being shut out. Blocked and locked away from one side by William and Kate, and from an entirely different angle by the woman sitting just across the room in the very home he shared with them. This wasn't just a disagreement. It was a heartbreaking barrier, a wall that rose suddenly and forbade any chance of connection. The dream that had once felt so alive. One unforgettable summer where the children might meet their grandfather on the land that shaped his entire existence was slipping slowly but surely through his fingers. That moment.
Because her whole brand was associated with royalty and what she had risen to from nothing.
Argue that 2 well-adjusted adults in a healthy relationship typically don't leave.
That loss was the fuel behind the escalating tension, the fight that echoed like a warning siren, signaling that the hope once held so dearly was now crashing into reality. Emotions surged, voices rose, but beneath all of it was a deep, undeniable sense of loss. Then, out of nowhere, Meghan made a decisive move. She flew to Geneva. People speculated about what that trip meant, but when she came back, the way she presented herself and her relationship told a very clear story. It was almost as if a switch flipped. Like clockwork, the couple's social media exploded with anniversary tributes, affectionate posts, captions that dripped with warmth and adoration, a carefully choreographed showcase of a couple deeply in love. The photos were radiant, the smiles genuine-looking, and to any casual observer scrolling through their feeds, it could have seemed like their marriage was stronger than ever.
Or, King, you don't get to see your grandchildren, whom he hasn't seen in 4 years. And the thing is, it's not up to the king.
Lovely, because according to reports,
Prince Harry and King Charles recently reunited for the first time.
But this wasn't just a spontaneous outpouring of joy shared between two people riding a wave of true happiness. No, this was a carefully orchestrated strategy, something many in the eye of public storms reach for when their narrative starts spiraling out of control. It's a classic play: flood the zone. Smother the brewing bad news with a tidal wave of positive imagery. Show the world bright smiles, tender moments, and glowing captions, distracting them long enough to forget to question what had really gone down hours before those posts appeared. This tactic often fools the casual viewer, but it can't deceive those who were watching closely, who were privy to what was truly unfolding. Heat magazine's insider source didn't fall for the illusion. What they revealed about the real situation behind the curated images was about as far from the public storyline as you can get. Despite the lovingly crafted content on Instagram, the source was crystal clear. This couple wasn't in the past tense. They times are times stuck in a tense, unresolved standoff. Right now, in the present moment, the social media spectacle went live, but beneath the surface, the tension remained unmoved, rigid, unyielding.
This initiative are achieving anything meaningful. What was intended to strengthen William's image as a model?
Its campaign to ban once and for all anti-personal landmines.
And very real. This wasn't some vague disagreement, it was a stalemate fought over something deeply personal and profoundly significant. The focus was crystal clear. Everything hinged on the upcoming Invictus Games, set for July, marking exactly 1 year until the big moment in Birmingham, 2027. This wasn't just any event for Prince Harry. It was more personal than almost anything else he'd ever undertaken. The Invictus Games embody his journey, his resilience, and the challenges he has faced, all woven into a project that feels deeply and uniquely his own. In Harry's mind, having Meghan by his side at this landmark occasion wasn't merely a preference, it was essential. This wasn't just about appearing together on a calendar date, it was about shared support during a milestone that held immense emotional meaning. But Meghan's reply reportedly came like a thunderclap, just 4 words carrying an ocean of meaning: "Miss Wait."
Time to teach his 3 children about homelessness, just like his mom, Princess Diana, did when he was a kid. Prince
Them are running this business and telling her to use a playbook that works for products where scarcity matters.
"Go without me, Harry." According to sources, she told him to make the trip to the UK alone, insisting emphatically that neither she nor their children would subject themselves to the stress and upheaval the visit would bring. She dug in her heels with unwavering resolve, refusing to budge even an inch. It wasn't a simple refusal, it felt like a boundary set in stone. Peeling back the carefully crafted anniversary posts and perfectly curated moments, a more complex, raw picture starts to emerge. You see, here was a husband longing for his wife's presence at one of the most meaningful events on his calendar, and on the other side, a wife standing firm against participating in what seemed like a meticulously orchestrated public performance, one so polished and carefully timed that millions would watch and find comfort in the appearance of unity. But comfort doesn't come without its price. Behind this social media veneer, another reality was quietly unfolding, one that dealt not with appearances, but with hard, cold numbers. The word circulating around Meghan's state of mind in this context wasn't
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle seem to be using their own kids as emotional blackmail against their father, King Charles.
Harry wants his children to have the very best education. The friend added he has retained his closest friendship group of confidants from his days at Lovegrove.
concern. It wasn't even worry. It was far more urgent: panic. Headlines from Star magazine and Page 6 this week paint a grim financial picture for the couple, suggesting they are dangerously close to running out of funds. The word panic keeps popping up in every narrative, describing that overwhelming feeling you get when you stare at your finances and they stubbornly refuse to look any better. It's not a slow creep into anxiety, it's a sudden jolt, a full-on realization that everything might be slipping away in an instant, and no amount of hope or spin will change that reality. The gap between money coming in and money going out started to widen in a way that couldn't just be ignored or smoothed over anymore. That's when Harry and Meghan made the monumental decision to step away from the royal family completely. Their entire plan was built on one critical belief, that their names, their brand, would hold so much value in the commercial world, it would be enough to support everything they dreamed of creating. The multi-million-dollar Netflix deal, the Spotify partnership, the lucrative speaking engagements, the book, all of it hinged on that single assumption. And for a while, that gamble seemed to pay off. But the truth about these kinds of deals is they don't last forever. Attention spans are short, streaming shows can underperform, and brand collaborations can stall out just as quickly as they ramp up. The cultural moment that made them feel like electric, cannot miss stars on every major platform quietly faded into the background. So what remains when that spotlight dims? The reality is stark. The enormous mortgage, an expansive estate that demands constant upkeep, a team of staff to manage the non-stop operations, security measures that cost more than most people earn in several lifetimes. None of these expenses pause just because the money flow slows down. And worse yet, the runway of financial runway, how much time and money they had before needing something big to break through again, kept shrinking every single month without a solid win. Financial pressure doesn't stay buried under a neat ledger. It leaks into every corner of life. It bubbles back up unexpectedly, turning settled arguments into fresh conflicts and dragging old wounds to the surface where they sting more deeply than before. The disagreements about simple things like the timing of a UK trip started to thicken with tension when bills and financial strain were factored in. Disputes about summer plans became far more urgent and less theoretical when each quiet week spilled more costs into an already tight budget. Every conversation about what the future could or should look like carried a new, unspoken tension, a current of worry that wasn't present before. And, according to various reports, Meghan is the one carrying the financial torch in this relationship. That means the weight of this crisis is falling mostly on her shoulders. She's the one watching the brand deals evaporate, the cash flow dry up, and the months tick away on a dwindling runway. Meghan is left juggling the full financial burden of a lifestyle that was built in very different circumstances, when everything seemed larger than life and endlessly promising, but now feels increasingly fragile and undefined. The pressures of reality. This moment in their very public journey carries an overwhelming weight, one that's incredibly difficult for any individual to endure alone. Imagine being under a spotlight, with millions watching your every move, every word dissected and debated, all while the very foundation of your closest relationship is already starting to splinter beneath that pressure. It's crucial to understand that the financial struggle they faced didn't spring those cracks. It merely shone an unforgiving light on fractures that had been quietly widening for some time. Harry himself offers an honest glimpse into this turbulent reality in his memoir, Spare. He reveals that their marriage was never free from intense conflicts, moments charged with emotion and sharp words. Meghan, in particular, set clear, unwavering boundaries. She warned Harry in no uncertain terms that if he ever spoke to her the way he did during one specific argument, that would be the end of their relationship. No room for negotiation, no second chances. What many overlooked when the book first hit shelves is just how different their situation was at that moment compared to now. Back then, despite the explosions and tension, there was still a shared mission, a unifying purpose that quietly bridged the growing distance between them. This mission, this common direction, was the glue holding the relationship together amid the chaos. Think about how extraordinary that period was from their perspective. Both had made the bold choice to step away from one of the most powerful institutions in history, the British monarchy. They had decisively agreed to a high-profile interview with Oprah, a move loaded with risk and consequence. They were collaborating closely on the Netflix documentary and working hand-in-hand on Harry's memoir. Every action they took was a step forward on a track they laid down together, each decision carefully coordinated, each goal aligned. When two people are united in such a focused way, personal disagreements, even fiery arguments can be endured, because the foundation beneath them is solid. The bedrock is the shared purpose, the joint vision they've committed their lives to. In that context, fractures aren't fatal, they're just bumps in the road. But here's the catch. All missions eventually come to an end. Goals are achieved or lose their meaning over time. Somewhere between the release of the book and the Netflix series falling short of expectations, the glue started to erode. The connection they once shared, powered by a shared cause, began to unravel. What had been a dynamic and hopeful partnership slowly calcified into something rigid and unyielding, leaving deep impressions on Harry's core sense of self. The mission that once energized them could no longer sustain the relationship. And now, decades later, those old cracks aren't just visible, they've deepened, shaping who they are and the challenges they face today. The very thing that brought them together also set the stage for what now threatens to pull them apart. The clock was ticking an endless metronome, marking the diminishing time Harry had left to make things right with his father. King Charles's health was faltering, and with every passing day, that window of opportunity was shrinking faster than anyone wanted to admit. Harry found himself stuck on the wrong side of a vast ocean, painfully aware that the distance between them wasn't just physical, it was emotional, and it carried the heavy weight of memory. He knew all too well what it felt like when time slipped away too quickly, when the moments to heal and reconcile vanish before you can grasp them. This wasn't just about wanting a quiet holiday in the Scottish Highlands, it was about something far deeper, something pulling at the core of his being. It was a magnetic force anchored in the rawest, most wounded parts of his soul, a desperate fight to avoid reliving his single most painful experience. Beneath this personal storm of fear and regret, Harry was locked in a battle that few could see or understand. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, behind the serene facades of Montecito, another drama was unfolding on a grand stage, the public battlefield of media and perception. A carefully choreographed dance was playing out across newspapers, tabloids, and social feeds, one designed with ruthless precision. And once you connect the dots, once you understand the formula, it becomes impossible to unsee. Almost every time Harry and Meghan's world feels like it's truly collapsing, certain sections of the press seem to leap into action with clockwork regularity. Their objective? Simple. Derail attention, reshape the story, and unleash a dazzling distraction that pulls the public's gaze away from the trouble brewing just beneath the surface. It's like tossing a bright flare into the night sky, hoping everyone will look up and forget to watch the shadows below. Not every attempt succeeds. The audience is savvier than that. But these attempts persist with relentless determination. This week, the pattern played out more transparently than ever before. Just as major headlines were swirling Heat magazine's explosive cover story, Radar Online's latest confirmation, reports fueling financial concerns, a new headline broke, one that felt remarkably out of place in its timing and tone. This story launched a direct attack on Prince William, not with questions or gentle critique, but with pure, unfiltered condemnation. The target? William's commitment to a significant housing and homelessness initiative, a cause dedicated to people struggling to find shelter and security. Somewhere, someone decided this worthy effort deserved a headline screaming, "Catastrophic mistake." The message was loud and clear. William, a figure striving to make a tangible difference for the vulnerable, was being cast as making a monumental error. The narrative pushed the idea that William couldn't possibly grasp the challenges faced by those without homes. It was a calculated strike designed not just to question, but to undermine and discredit. Why? Because in the media's relentless game to distract from Harry and Meghan's troubles, no opportunity is too sacred, no cause too important to be weaponized in their wider strategy of narrative control. Imagine trying to truly understand what it's like to face the harsh realities of housing insecurity, being stuck in that endless limbo where your deposit is unfairly held, waiting anxiously for a landlord who never shows up, unsure if you'll have a roof over your head tonight. Now, consider someone who steps forward to speak out about these struggles, but has never actually lived through any of them. They've never been in that vulnerable position, never lost their home, or felt that gnawing uncertainty. Their involvement, in many eyes, can seem hollow, like a privileged outsider putting on a show of empathy without genuinely earning the right to speak from experience. It's an argument we've all heard, and one that deserves careful attention because on the surface, it feels convincing. But pause for a moment and think about it deeper. If experiencing personal hardship were the strict requirement for meaningful charity or activism, then where would that leave us? Would it imply that you can only support cancer research if you yourself are battling the disease? Would you only be able to donate to a children's hospital if you'd once been a patient under their care? If we applied this rule consistently, the entire framework of philanthropy would crumble overnight. The very people who have the means to fund vital change are often those who have never endured the specific challenges they are helping to address. That's the paradox. And then there's Princess Diana, the most iconic humanitarian figure ever to emerge from the British royal family. A woman whose kindness and courage redefined global awareness of some of the world's toughest issues: the stigma surrounding AIDS, the devastation caused by landmines, and the plight of society's most marginalized individuals. Diana didn't need to have personally faced these tragedies to become a powerful advocate. She wasn't a victim of a landmine explosion herself, but she made it her mission to fight against them. She wasn't afflicted with AIDS, yet she famously took a patient's hand without gloves in front of the world's cameras, challenging fear and ignorance head-on. What she brought to the table was far bigger than personal experience. She brought visibility, influence, and the ability to galvanize public opinion on a massive scale almost overnight. Her efforts contributed to tangible change, like the heightened awareness that eventually led to bans on anti-personnel landmines. The impact was profound and lasting. Now, reflecting on this week's unfolding events, the story isn't just about individual grievances or isolated incidents. It's about a much larger picture coming into focus. Like pieces of a complex puzzle, personal stories, public reactions, and the underlying patterns of privilege and pain all intertwine. Forgiveness is one thing, an honest step toward healing and understanding. But what's being attempted here feels quite different. It seems to be an attempt to erase or rewrite history under the guise of moving on, a subtle form of denial disguised as closure. The British public remembers, and the wounds still linger beneath the surface. So, when you step back and look at everything that happened this week, the tangled threads of a fragile marriage between privilege, pain, and public perception begin to emerge, setting the stage for even more complicated conversations ahead. The situation is reportedly spiraling into a serious structural collapse, like a house cracking at the foundation, threatening to crumble at any moment. At the center of this unraveling is a man caught in the grip of deep regret, pulled by an invisible force toward a homeland he once called home, yet haunted by the fear of running out of time to reconnect with a father he has spent years trying to outrun. Meanwhile, his wife stands firm, having drawn an unmovable line in the sand. Her resolve isn't born from stubbornness alone, but from a genuine, palpable fear of what might lie waiting for her on the other side of that vast, relentless ocean. Caught in the middle are their two children, growing up distant strangers to half of their heritage, unaware of a rich part of themselves, because they are separated from the land and the stories that shaped it. Adding another layer of complexity, a subtle yet deliberate push is happening behind the scenes, a carefully coordinated campaign within the media designed to soften public perception. It seeks to create an atmosphere where forgiveness feels overdue, as if the moment to move on has arrived naturally, even though no one has openly sought it. The question that kicked off this entire story was deceptively simple, but profound. What becomes of a marriage when the very thing that once held it steady suddenly vanishes? After everything that has come to light this past week, the answer feels unavoidable. What kept this marriage afloat was never just love, the bond that most people imagine at the center of any relationship, but something deeper and more pragmatic, a shared purpose. It was a mission that fueled them, driving them to absorb the friction and conflict that naturally arose between two very different people. Their combined goals and the momentum of their work carried them through the rocky patches. But now that mission is gone, the engine has stalled, and what's left are two individuals facing fundamentally different visions of what life means to them. Without the structure of a common cause to catch their fall, the man in the middle, Harry, looks less like someone managing through tough times and more like a man losing an internal battle. This is a struggle, no therapy session, no change of scenery, and certainly no waves of California sunshine can fully heal. His yearning for his own culture, his history, traditions, even the familiar sounds and rhythms of the life he grew up with, is something that never diminishes. In fact, it grows heavier with each passing day, layering on a mix of sorrow and longing that only deepens over time. Watching his children grow up without the chance to experience any of that is a uniquely painful grief. It's a sorrow that doesn't just live in memories of the past, but is an ongoing wound. A loss that continues to unfold with every birthday they celebrate and every story left untold. It's a heartache that shifts its shape but never quite fades, sitting quietly below the surface, waiting to be spoken aloud. What's unfolding right now, day after day, is more than just a story, it's a pivotal moment in history. The flight that was meant to carry them away from a millennium of legacy and tradition was supposed to mark the dawn of something incredible, a new beginning filled with hope and possibility. To the outside world, however, the path was clear and unmistakable. Friends who dared to speak up, family members who sensed this inevitable turning point long before it arrived, and commentators who risked ridicule all saw the signs with crystal clear perspective signs that pointed not to freedom, but to something far more complicated, far more daunting. They foresaw a time when every boundary, every barrier would suddenly tighten all at once, squeezing the life out of the very act of concealment, the performance of hiding truths. It would become unbearably costly, far more than the comfortable life it was meant to shield. The reckoning, once a distant shadow on the horizon, is no longer approaching, it has already arrived, standing at the front door. The pressing question now isn't if it will happen, but how much farther this tense moment must stretch before those at its very center are forced to confront what everyone else has seen with painful clarity for a long, long time. If you've been following this story from the start, by now you understand none of this came from nowhere. Every shock, every twist that surfaced this week was visible from miles away to anyone willing to pay attention to look past the noise and distractions. And that brings us to a crucial point where you get your news matters now more than ever. The mainstream media, as this week has made abundantly clear, isn't always dedicated to showing you the full picture. Sometimes, it prioritizes telling you the story that certain voices want you to believe is unfolding. And those two versions, they're worlds apart. If you're searching for the complete story, the real story, that's why you should subscribe and ring the notification bell right now. Because based on everything we've uncovered, the next chapter is racing toward us faster than anyone is ready for. When it lands, you'll want to have every piece of the puzzle, every detail that came before, so you can understand what it truly means. Don't miss a moment, stick around, and see where this extraordinary story takes us next. And if you've found value here, please like, share, and leave your thoughts below. Your voice matters just as much in this conversation as what's unfolding on the screen.